So hello everyone, and thank you very much for joining this webinar today. Very important webinar, Provision ISR roadmap. Provision ISR usually have this kind of webinar. For those of you, it's your first time. Usually we have this kind of webinar roadmap every 6 months to inform you what's coming up, what's coming next in the near future, in the next 2 quarters usually. So you will know to prepare better. First of all, from marketing point of view, from sales point of view, when you get questions in the market about different things, so you will know when it's coming and progresses. This seminar is being recorded. You will get the recording later and the presentation. We have another seminar today at 4 p.m. Israel time. That is in about 5 hours. So if you have more people you would like to join, please do. Um, this webinar is going to be quite long, so bear with us, and apologies. I'm estimating about an hour. We have quite a lot of topics to cover. So prepare your water, your coffee, and sit back and enjoy the ride. We will open the microphone at the end to allow any questions that you might. In the meantime, you can also ask questions on the chat box, and we will ask on behalf of you at the end. Thank you very much, and let's start. So like I said, we're going to cover quite a lot of topics from IP cameras to NVR to IPPTZ to HD market and a few more other side niche products. And let's start. Let's start with the IP cameras. IP camera. First thing I would like to explain about IP camera is a few new resolutions coming available in our market. So the 2 and the 4 meg. The 2 and the 4 megapixel. The 2 and the 4 megapixel were resolution that you were aware of, the same 5 megapixel and the 8 megapixel, whether it's from analog market or from IP market. There's a few new resolution coming up with us. The first one is the 3K, and we will talk about it in a second. 6 mega and 12 mega coming up as well. Just to explain why we need so many resolutions, some of them we are basically end of life, those resolution. But let's see what's the main difference between them. And the main difference between them is the ratio of the image itself. When we talk about 2 megapixel camera, we talk about a 16:9 ratio, meaning you get a full frame. Sensor itself is a 16:9 ratio, and therefore we get a full screen. Unlike, for example, 4 megapixel, which the sensor itself is a 4/3 sensor. Now, of course, this is not what you see on the NVR. The NVR know how to stretch the image and to show you a full image, but originally the sensor itself is 4/3. And this is why we're now, and by the way, same happens with the 5 megapixel, for example, which is also 4/3. And therefore we have those black size. Again, the DVR and NVR know how to stretch the image and create a full screen ratio, 16:9, but it's a cropped one. And this is why we launched the latest or the new 3K resolution, which is a 16:9. It's somewhere between 4 to 5 megapixel. And you will see some models that we are launching in 3K, especially in the analog market. The 6 megapixel is a new resolution, also 4/3, but this is the available sensor right now. Again, the NVR know how to stretch it. The 8 megapixel is a full frame sensor, 16:9, and the new resolution coming up also is the 12 megapixel with very high resolution, some IP camera that we are launching in that resolution level. Two more terminologies that I would like you to know, and they are new in Provision ISR, and they are very interesting one. The first one is dual system. Dual system is a very powerful tool that we have in some of the new models that you will see. If you're coming from the IT market, then you know what partitions is in hard drive and in computers for the software, and it works in a similar way in IP cameras as well. So what does it mean? So the firmware of the camera, for example, is exist in what we call the main partition. Now, let's say you perform an update for the camera, and in the middle of the update there is a power failure, and the update didn't finished, or there is some kind of a file corruption in the camera will stop performing. Like it will be one access to it. And therefore, usually what's required is a hard reset of the camera or intervention from outside, another firmware reboot or something. And not anymore. With the new models, in that case, that there is any kind of malfunction with the firmware for any reason, there is a recovery partition inside the camera that basically is a mirror to all the setting of the camera, all the film of the camera, and it's once there is a problem, the camera know automatically, and it's done automatically. You don't need to interfere. Goes to the recovery partition. The camera will do a self reboot and restore all the settings back to the main partition, and the camera will resume normal function. This is a very powerful feature we added in most of the new models, and we will touch which ones. Another technology I would like to explain a little bit better because you will see more and more and more models of this. We also see it in our competitors as well, is what related to what we call the color at night solution and what we call hybrid light. And I would like to take this opportunity to explain it a little bit more. You see more and more and more cameras on the market that has what we call hybrid light, combination between IR light and white light. And the camera know to switch between the IR light and the white light, and it's done when an object is detected in the frame. So what does it mean? The camera will be in black and white mode. IR is on, black and white mode, no object on the frame. So when no object detected, the IR is on. Once the camera detects an object in the frame, at the moment there is no ability to define which area, but the full frame, and this is important to understand, the full frame, once there is an object detected in the frame, the camera know how to switch to the white light and create a full color at night image. And once the object is out and no longer detected in the frame, IR is back on and black and white image. Now, the reason I'm explaining it is one, you see it more and more in the market, and you will see more and more of those hardware on the market, not only with Provision SR, but almost in any competitor. Let's dive in. We'll talk about some of the cameras, and we start with the IP cameras, like I mentioned. So the first series I would like to dedicate just 1 minute about is the B-Sight, our basic series, which we decided to enlarge a little bit more. Great performance camera, no analytics. You won't find any analytics. Those are for the entry-level market. Outstanding value for money, but really no analytics. We launched it, the first series of the 2 megapixel in the B-Sight just about 6 months ago. And we have great results. It's an NDA camera, 2 megapixel, very economic. So we are now in the next quarter, we are launching we upgrading those cameras to the hybrid light. So we are adding the hybrid light concept, and we are launching the 4 megapixel itself. So by the way, you will get the presentation so you can also see and understand the model index. So for example, the B-Sight is what we call IPBN. IP because it's IP, B for B-Sight, and N for NDAA. And those we already released. Pay attention to them. They are very economic and price-wise for the market that need economic cameras. And we are upgrading now very soon in Q1 of 2004 to what I explained as hybrid light. Those are the index of the model. Not many models. You will see only 2 models in each category, in the 2 mega and the 4 mega fixed lens eyeball camera, dome camera, and a fixed lens bullet camera. Same in the 2 mega and same with the 4 megapixel. and you have the index of the model so you can understand exactly which model are being launched. The green one, you will see it. S-Site. The S-Site is a series that we did a major change this year. The S-Site is what we call our simple series. And we, in 2023, we added the DDA analytic. So now it's not only motion-based analytic or something like this, but real human or car, two wheels or four-wheel drives analytic, and with some basic analytics features, which we'll show some of them later. So in the S-Site, let's see a little bit the evolution of what happened with the S-Site over the last year and a half. So, and what's coming next. So in the past, as you know, originally we didn't have NDAA. We talked about 2 years ago, and then we launched the first NDAA model. We started with 2 megapixel and 4 megapixel. You probably know the model IPSN for the NDAA. Today, we also, as you know, in 2023, we launched the first S-Site with, it was a firmware upgrade and a hardware with V2, and we launched the DDA first generation. Again, the ability to distinguish between the three main objects: human being, cars, four-wheel drive, and two-wheel drive, and bicycles and such. And we started with 2 and 4 megapixel, and quite fast during that year, and I know it was a little bit confusing, but we wanted to launch the checkpoint solution, and then we added the 8 megapixel. And here we can also see that in those cameras, there is a few more advantages. First thing, yes, it's DDA, first generation, and NDAA. But also you should know that in those models, and it's good to know it marketing-wise, that we have what I explained is the dual system, the ability of the camera to perform self-recovery in case of a malfunction for any reason. And of course, we added the checkpoint. The first series that we launched the checkpoint was the 8 megapixel, 380 IPSN V3. This was the first IP camera that we launched with checkpoint embedded. The 2 megapixel, the V4 supposed to support checkpoint. At the moment, the firmware is not released yet. This is why we put here a small remark, so you know that not yet. There is no firmware available in 2 megapixel. There is one in the 8. What's coming up? So we are moving into the hybrid light. This is the main topic in the S-Site. We're moving into hybrid light. Plus, we are adding the 6 megapixel. So we're going to have 2, 4, 6, and 8 megapixel in S-Site. Actually, starting from Q1 already. Some of the models are already in progress, but I would say that in Q2 of 2024, you will see all of those series in Provision SR 2, 4, 6, and 8. Again, with NDAA, DDA first generation, checkpoint, and the dual system. In the next slides, we just put the different models so you can see a full chart of in which housing will I get 8 megapixel, in which housing will I get 6 megapixel, because not all models are available in all resolution in all housings. So it's good to have a chart that will show it to you. So I think it's a great tool to have. So you have 2 slides here, one for dome and anti-vandal housing and such, and one for bullet, and you can see which models are coming up and so on. Next up is a S-Site Rainbow series, what we call the 320 SRN or 340 SRN, available in 2 and in 4 megapixel. It's an NDAA model with DDA first generation. Many people have asked of us what's next in this series. So the main improvement is the checkpoint. That's what we are missing there, and it's coming as scheduled to come up at Q2 of 2024. And this is the chart for it. Moving on to the I-Site series. The I-Site series is what we call our main series with the most amount of analytics, and the series that we also try to put in the center because we are very proud of this series, variety of housing, variety of analytics options. And I will talk about what kind of analytic we have in those series in a minute. But we also have, as you know, recently we released the metadata, not only the ability to see those 3 main objects also with all the classification and the attributes of colors of shirts and hats and bags and different attributes for an easier search. Also later on with alerts. So what happened in the eyesight? Let's see the evolution of this series. So in the past, we didn't have NDAA, but already in the beginning of the year, we launched the first NDAA model in 2 and 4 megapixel, and we launched the DDA second generation with the attributes and more analytic functions. We started with 2 and 4 megapixel. We are now already now in Q4 of 2023, we released the checkpoint firmware and the models and the dual system. So actually now, already now becoming available, we have in the eyesight 2, 4, and 8 megapixel, all of them with checkpoint, with DDA first generation, with DDA second generation, all of them are NDA model with the dual system. Those are very powerful models, and we recommend you to focus very much on those series. It gives to the brand the prestige that we are looking for, the quality that we are always aiming for, and we are very proud of that series. Coming up in this series is the 6 megapixel and the 12 megapixel. Already in Q1, we're going to start seeing the 6 megapixel, and Q2 the 12 megapixel. Again, with everything that we talked about, eyesight, DDA, and so on. And again, you have the charts of the models, which model are going to be available in which series. For example, the 12 megapixel, we can see that we're going to have it in the anti-vandal housing with motorized lens, or also in the large bullet camera with motorized lens. So only 2 models to begin with. If you see more usage, let us know so we can start work on it. If you see more demand to other models, let us know. And continue with the eyesight. If you remember in our last roadmap, we talked about the demand to combine between the rainbow eyesight and the smart alert cameras, the active deterrence cameras. So we have the smart alert cameras, the 340 active deterrence cameras, and we have the rainbow with the 340 IPERN with the rainbow eyesight. And we are basically combining both of them into one series, launching it in 4 mega and in 8 mega. Again, it's NDAA, it's checkpoint embedded, DDA first generation, DDA second generation. And we're talking about a very powerful camera here that basically have the active deterrence and the color at night and full analytics and many more. And as you know, it's got built-in speaker and audio out, so you can connect it to horn speakers, and there's many possibilities with those models. And they are coming up. Actually, the first 4 megapixel is coming up already in January 2024, and the 8 megapixel going to come in Q2 of 2024. Moving on to our Smart Sight series, the last series in IP cameras, more niche cameras such as face recognition camera, LPR cameras, thermal cameras. Though this is the model that we have today. In the smart face camera, we have the 2 megapixel, and then in the smart plate camera or license plate recognition, we had the 2 megapixel. And today we also have, we increased the variety. In the car plate recognition camera, we added the 4 megapixel models, which are NDAA as well, and ability to connect with vegan protocol to access control system and more. And in the thermal camera, we launched the 5 megapixel camera and we have a variety of models. I want you to pay attention to it. We started with 3 and the 7 millimeter, but now we also have available 19 and 25 millimeter for larger distances. Please note those 2 models, because of the price of it, then we have a sample sent you if you need, but when you need to place an order, you should know that the lead time is about 45 days to produce it. We're producing back to back, as we call it. Once we receive the order, we produce it, but we can send you sample in case there is a need for it. And those models are available in thermal camera, and we have quite a good success with the thermal cameras. Some other IP camera products. Fisheye. Today we have a fisheye camera 6 megapixel. While back in our last webinar, we talked about 12 megapixel IP camera. So it's coming up already in Q1, if I'm not mistaken, February 2024. NDAA model, 12 megapixel. Video server, it's a product that basically can transform any analog camera to an IP camera and connect to the NVR. So we have the model with support 4 megapixel. We're launching a new model, a very interesting one. First of all, it supports 5 megapixel. Number two, it's an NDAA certified model. It's also embedded with the analytic. It's part of the iSight series, as you can see, IPE for iSight and NDAA. And it's coming up in Q1 2024. But there is another very interesting feature. This device also have IOs, 4 and 8. And it can be used as a network IO. Some of you have requested us for a solution for a network IO device. This device actually can perform as exactly for that purpose. Yes, it takes a video channel because it's a video server and therefore it's using one of the NVR channels. But once you connect it, you have IOs and you can activate any device and therefore activates those devices using the app and so on and so on, or create triggers using it and so on. Let's talk a little bit about firmware roadmap. Starting with the S-Sight. In the S-Sight, there was not much changes. We had the version 5.1.1. We moved on to 5.2. Not many changes when it comes to the analytic. We had some other improvement for the FTP and some other things, but not many improvement in the S-Sight. The S-Sight has the DDA already embedded into it, as you know, and it has line crossing DDA and stereo area DDA. You can create up to 4 different zones and get one alert out of it. But when it comes to the iSight, this is where we had most of our changes and most of our improvement. We started the year with version 5.1.2, which can create one alert, basically. We added many features into it, of course, including DDA, line crossing, and stereo area. But we had also object counting and object counting by line or by area. We had heat map and more features, which is great. And of course, face detection. All of the iSight series also support what we call face detection. Recently, we released version 5.1.3. We also released version 5.1.3.1, and this is where we are standing right now. But in 5.1.3, and make sure you received the announcement about it and you learned the feature. But we added the 3 main features, 3 main analytics. The first one is illegal parking. The second one is loitering, and also audio exception. And most important, we added metadata as well. Now, this is great. And by the way, the most important thing is we can do anyone starting from version 5.1.3 in iSight. You can do any one of those analytics together. You can use all of them together, actually, not only one analytic. So the camera doesn't perform just one analytic out of the analytics that you have, but it can perform all the analytics together, which is great. In version 5.1.31, we also added the metadata to it. So you can do the analytics and the metadata and the face recognition separately. Coming up in February, March is version 5.2.1, which is the main feature or the main improvement is the cloud upgrade. As you know, Provision ISR already released the NVR cloud upgrade. Together, you can upgrade your NVR through the app or locally on the NVR, and you get alerts when you get a new firmware available. Major improvement, and it's coming up also in IP camera in version 5.2.1. Hope it was clear. Let's move on for NVRs. As I hope you're all with me. I know we are already 30 minutes into this seminar, but we have quite a long way to go. So stay tuned. NVR. NVR, we try to divide our NVR models to three categories, what we call entry level, middle project size, and high-end projects. Let's start with the non-PoE NVR, and later we'll see the PoE NVR. So those are the models we have today, starting from our entry level, supporting 5 megapixel, 1080p output, and so on and so on. And we are releasing the new models, which the main improvement is the NDA and checkpoint naturally. And we divide it with some of the model we already started or starting. Some of you already received some models already in Q4 2023, started October, more or less. We started to release the first NDA checkpoint model. We started with 32 channels, and we are moving down to all the models. And there are more models coming up also in Q1, Q2, like the 128 channel and the 64 channels and so on. All of those models, the main improvement is the NDAA and the checkpoint. But not only, I will show another major improvement. Same with the PoE NVR. And PoE NVR, again, dividing it into those three categories. And now we are releasing the NDAA and checkpoint models and moving on also all the way through Q1 of 2024. Other than the fact that those NVRs are NDA certified and with checkpoint embedded, there is also some firmware update with it, which is AI built into the NVR. This means that you can take provision ISR NVR, you can connect any camera to it, even if it's not a provision ISR, as long as it's an IP camera, and it doesn't have any analytics. It can be one of our competitors or something else, or even our IP camera, let's say the B-side camera, Vision ISR B-side camera, have no analytic. I can still connect it to the NVR and perform analytics on the NVR itself. The NVR has its own analytic, and you can enjoy all the analytics of provision ISR. I tried to show it in a map. Those are the list of all the new models. So what you can see here is a little bit about the housing itself, so you can have an understanding about how many hard drives, how many audio in, out, what kind of outputs, and so on, alarms and such. There is a category here, which is AI performed by the IP camera, so naturally everything you're familiar with, and AI performed by the NVR with any IP camera model. Doesn't matter if it's Provision ISR or any other brand, or if it's Provision ISR without analytics, you can perform the analytics on the NVR itself. Yes, not all models. Yes, the model that it does support, it's limited. For example, this 8-channel NVR, only 2 channels can perform DDA analytics, but still you can use other cameras or cameras that doesn't have built-in analytics. And it's a very interesting slide to look into it, so learn it once you get it. Let's talk a little bit about our PTZ. Main request is, of course, NDAA, and this is our main changes, but not only. So we did some improvements. As you know, we have 3 categories of PTZ camera today. 4-inch, 5-inch, and 6-inch. You can recognize it by the model. We have Z4, Z5, and Z6. Some of them in 2, some of them in 4 megapixel. So first thing we did is, of course, to make sure that they are all NDA certified, naturally new models with NDA chipsets. But one of the things that we also decided to do is to improve the housing. So actually, we changed some of the housing to be dramatically better as far as IR distance and as far as motor speed. For example, let's look at the Z5 cameras. So yes, before it was high silicon chipset, the IR distance was 150 meters, and the motor was 150 degree per second to call a preset. We improved the hardware, so naturally we're using NDA chipsets. The IR distance is ranging between 200 and 300 meters, depending on the model. Actually, now it's the IR distance of a Z6. The motor is giving you a speed of 330 degree per second. Actually, the motor is even stronger than what we had the Z6, and this is why we are announcing later on an end of life for the Z6. And this is because the Z5 perform even better at a lower price. So the Z5 is available in 4 megapixel. And we also are adding in Q1 40 zoom into the Z5. This was a 25 zoom, and this one is a 40 zoom for 300 meter IR. And we are going to launch in Q2 the 8 megapixel as well. Z4 also had some improvement with the motor and the IR distance. And again, we improving the 2 and the 4 megapixel, and we're launching an 8 megapixel camera model. And we are launching 2 more economic models in 3-inch and in 5-inch, mostly for indoor, in ceiling and such. Small motor, small zoom, 4 zoom. There is a demand for it for 50-meter small yards, indoor and such. And those models are coming. Let's talk a little bit about HD market. HD market is still alive and kicking. For those of you that thought that it's already out of the cycle, so no, it's live and kicking and still have a market share. Provision ISR had we got some feedback from many of our partners that our price range is a bit high in the HD market, and we need to upgrade a few things like audio in HD cameras. So let's see some of the improvements. As you know, in Provision ISR, we have 3 series in HD market. We have the basic series. Many of you don't use it, AB. We have the Pro, which is our main Provision ISR analog market, 2, 5, and 8 megapixel, 320A, 350A, 380A. And we have even color at night, what we call a rainbow camera, 320 AR. What is the main improvement that we are doing in this market? We are launching with the 3K resolution, as I explained, and we are adding the built-in microphone, which is a major improvement that many of you requested. Some of our competitors already had it, and Provision ISR don't, so they are coming up in the 3K resolution. I want you to pay attention to, especially the basic series, very attractive prices. The Pro series, we reduced prices recently in analog market. So have a look into the HD camera range to see if it fits your market right now better than it was before. You have the table here that shows you in each one of the series, basic series, Pro series, and Rainbow series, which model we have and which models are coming in the different resolution. This is going to be already in Q1 of 2024. You're going to see most of those models coming out. So there are other improvements, like I said, the built-in mic is a major improvement. The sensor, which is 16/9, and more. DVRs. Main improvement in DVR, actually, we talked about it in our last seminar, but it's coming up right now, is the firmware upgrade, which there are some new models, but the main improvement is version 1.4, which provides you SMD, Smart Motion Detection. Just a few words about it to remind you. Motion detection is based on pixels. Smart motion detection is basically, it's a combination of DDA at the back You don't control it. You cannot define it or set it, but DVR perform it automatically using DDA instead of motion detection and alert you when there is objects in the areas or whatever it is in the frame, whether it's human or car and so on. Plus, we're going to have a full DDA support for some limited channels and checkpoint embedded with future upgrade. So those are the models that we have today that are already NDAA and support SMD, smart motion detection from version 1.4. There are some improvement to those models coming up to support, and you will see it in the form of V2 in the model, for NDAA, checkpoint embedded with a future upgrade, SMD and DDA. These are already happening in Q4 as we speak. Some of you already started receiving those models, and you will see it more and more. A few more topics to talk about specific models that some of you have requested. So just for you to know, intercom unit, we talked about it that in our last webinar, that soon we're going to launch the first access control or intercom units. As you all know, we already released the doorbell. Some of you already received it. There are some things that we would like to improve, and we are working on it. But the doorbell was already released, and the big brother of the doorbell is the intercom. It's coming up actually in Q1. Hopefully by February or March, it will be available. We are working now on all the content and all the product release information with all the marketing material that you need for it. But basically, we have an outdoor unit and an indoor unit, indoor monitor, and you will get a dedicated seminar about it naturally once the product will become available or close to become available. Another model that we promised and is coming up is the solar cellular camera, IP camera. It's actually coming in Q1 2024. We're in the final adaptation, full standalone IP camera with SIM card built in and cellular panel come with it with the right bracket. And this was a very hard product to work on. The camera need to be very efficient when it comes to power consumption. It need to know basically to go to sleep when there is no analytic going on and to wake up when there is analytics. So this was a big struggle, and we are still finalizing small details, but the product is finally ready. It's been tested and installed in some project in Israel, and we are looking forward to receive it. Full standalone device, like I said, perfect for agricultures, for many, many projects. All of us have been talked about it with us in different occasions, so it's coming up. And last, I think we came to the last of it actually. Some accessories in the doorbell, which we released recently. So the doorbell now have an indoor chime. And some of you ask us some question about it, just to understand. This is a wireless, not a Wi-Fi, but a wireless device, chime. It's quite easy to connect it to the doorbell. There is a small button. You need to click here, and the doorbell recognize it and sync with it, and you can connect a few devices like that in the second floor and in the first floor, and all of them will ring once the ring button has been pushed on the doorbell. And we also released some bracket to your demands, some junction box and some 15-degree angle bracket. Those are becoming already available right now. We are delaying a little bit with the junction box. I know it was supposed to be released by now. We found in the last minute a small mechanical problem there, which we're fixing, and those models are becoming available. Great. Actually, it took much faster than I anticipated. Thank you very much. I hope it was informative for you. Like I said, the recording of this webinar is going to be sent to you together with the presentation, so you can translate it or take parts of it. And we're gonna have the same seminar today, in about 4 hours. So if you want to invite someone or colleagues or whoever, please do. And thank you very much for joining us, and see you in our next seminar.